everybody. Thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View. Tonight, we're so excited to be joined by WWE Hall of Famer and Mayor of Knox County, Tennessee, the Big Red Machine himself, Mayor Glenn Jacobs. Glenn, we're stoked to have you. This has been in the making for a long time. I've been especially excited about this interview because I find your story so fascinating. Take us back to the beginning. How did you find your way into professional wrestling? Because that is not a path that everyone decides to take, but obviously it worked out pretty well for you.
It did work out pretty well for me. In fact, I always say that I'm a testament to the power of the American dream. I was an athlete all my life, wanted to play sports. I was playing college football, looked like I was going to have an opportunity to play in the NFL. And then one day in practice, this is one of the things that happens that shows you that this is not meant to be for you. We're literally going through trick plays at the end of practice, just walking through a reverse, no shoulder pads, no helmet. And I twisted my knee and ended up tearing my ACL and meniscus in my knee. I went to the Chicago Bears camp after the season was over and was there for a day. I got sent home because I couldn't pass the physical. I was devastated up until that point. That was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And I just got to thinking, man, what can I do with my life? I still wanted to play sports. I still wanted to do something that involved athletics. I'd always been a fan of professional wrestling, not like a super diehard fan, but I'd always watch it when I was a kid. And then, of course, I grew up in the era of Hulk Hogan and all of that. So just one night I'm watching WWE on TV with a friend of mine, and he said, we should try that. We might be good at that. And so that's what I decided to do with my size and still pretty good athlete, because even though I had a bad knee and everything, and got into it and found that I really liked it because it combined both athleticism with performance with theater. Fell in love with it and, again, thought that I could be good at it and pursued it, and it did turn out pretty well for me.
So you're saying that everything we see in WWE isn't all real? No, I'm just kidding. I think that's the most fun of it all, is that everybody's in on it, right? Everybody gets it and they know, and everybody's got their own personas, and it's just, that's so much fun. Your story, by the way, reminds me a lot of my dad's story. What position did you play in football?
I was an offensive tackle. I only played football for 1 year in college. I didn't play in high school. Wow. Yeah, I was a beanpole when I graduated high school. I played basketball and went to college on a basketball scholarship.
No
then
way.
when I got to college, I started lifting weights and just filled out and really bulked up. And I was playing at a small school, so the football coach literally came to me. He's like, you're not going to play in the NBA, but with your size and your athleticism, you might have the opportunity to play in the NFL. So I'm like, yeah, sure. I might have been able to play basketball overseas at a lower level, but I wanted to play professional sports here in America. So yeah.
Well, you did that. You certainly achieved it. But my dad was a linebacker. He played for Purdue, and then after college, and this was back in Purdue's heyday, they had won the Rose Bowl. They were a super big deal, and he went out to San Francisco to possibly play for the 49ers and got in a motorcycle accident, broke his collarbone, and kind of took that as his sign. And fortunately for me, he did, because had he stayed in San Francisco, he would have never moved to North Carolina, where he met my mom. And quite frankly, we would not be sitting here today talking, Glenn. So it all works out. But did I read right that you got your college degree in English literature?
That is what I got my degree in. I wanted to teach and to coach. That's what I'd done my entire life up until that point. That was one of the great things about wrestling, is from my English background, of course, theater and drama and those sort of things. I was pretty familiar with that. So that was another thing that really that wrestling appealed to me about.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and I'll get your quick take on this. Obviously, English literature, not exactly grammar. I'm a real grammar stickler myself, and one of the things that makes me so crazy right now is how we're being forced to use pronouns incorrectly and call a single person they or them. I'm like, what are we doing here? This goes against everything I was ever taught in English. And I'm all about that. If you can't get your, and your straight, or their, and their straight, we got, I don't know if we can hang out. But man, that one drives me really crazy because it's completely grammatically incorrect. But I digress. Is it bothering you the same way?
Oh, it does. And when people invent words like adulting, one day someone from my staff said that they hated adulting. I was like, adulting is not a word. Okay, adult is a noun. It is not a verb, and it's not a gerund. Okay, so you can't say adulting. You're exactly right. The problem with the pronouns is that they, their, and them are plural, and if you're talking about an individual, it's not. So yeah, I have a lot of issues with those too. And then that side of me, my capstone professor in college takes over because he, talk about the quintessential grammar Nazi. That dude was it. So I always think back to what he would say.
Man, he and I would have probably been good friends. I mean, I'm a real weirdo with that stuff. Well, to get back to wrestling and get away from grammar and English, you started wrestling in 1992, I believe, and you made it to the WWE in 1995. That's not too long of a time, 3 years, to then make it to, you make it. When you get to the WWE, you've made it. What was that like for you? Did you think that after 3 years, you were going to be a part of something as big as you ended up being?
Well, the story is a little longer than that because, no, it wasn't a long time from when I started to when I got to WWE. Obviously, with my size, I had some competitive advantages. But even for a couple years in WWE, I really struggled. I was still learning the ropes. Frankly, I was intimidated because here I was with the best of the best and didn't really know if I belonged until I was able to finally carve my niche. And then in 1997, when the Kane character was created for me, that's when everything really took off. But yeah, even then, if you'd asked me, would I still be around and relevant 30 years later almost? No, I don't think so. I mean, and you never can predict the future, but it's been just a tremendous ride.
Well, that's what's so cool, I feel like, is, look, anybody that watched WWE, and you didn't even have to be like a super fan in the 90s to remember Kane. Like that was a character that certainly stuck out to a lot of people. I mean, you made such a big mark and such a big impact. So now you're the mayor of a town in Tennessee, and do people, I assume most people know your backstory. Do you get a lot of fans come into your town to check you out?
I do, actually. Probably a couple times a week we'll have someone coming in from out of town because we're down by Sevierville and Gatlinburg, Tennessee, Pigeon Forge, which is a big tourist area anyway. So people will email the office and want to come by, and that's fine. We try to be as accommodating as possible. And then also whenever I've announced that I'm going to go out in public, a lot of times, we'll encourage people, hey, if you want to go talk to me or take a picture, make those events. So yeah, we'll have people literally drive in from all over the country to come because I'm eating in a restaurant or something like that. So it's really, really amazing, and it's really awesome. And for me, it's a gift because not many people get to experience that.
Yeah, well, and then to be able to take something as successful as your career in WWE and then transition to politics, that's a big swing. I do know someone who's made a big transition from business to politics in my life, you may know. But were you always interested in politics? Why did you decide that was something you wanted to do?
I was always interested in politics. In fact, if I hadn't been an English major, I would have been a history major because it's those things kind of line up, I guess, when you look at the social sciences. When I was, I guess, like a sophomore in high school, last time I was ever a Democrat, the teacher had me play the role of Walter Mondale in a debate, and it was when Geraldine Ferrara was running for vice president. So I'd always been interested, and from where I came from as far as my own life, as I said earlier, I really consider myself a testament to the power of the American dream. And the fact that, I grew up in rural Missouri, my family didn't have any money really and no connections. And the fact that someone like me has been able to do the stuff that I've been able to do in my life, I think is amazing. And so many other people are able to do that from much more humble beginnings than I ever, that I came from, but do much greater things than I ever will. And the reason is because we have the freedom in this country to do that. And I think that's vitally important. And that's someone that you were talking about. When he became president, I realized that, hey, yeah, the environment is rich for people that haven't been in politics before. People want someone from outside of the establishment in the political realm in office now. They want new perspectives. And I certainly felt that I brought that. So when he won, that really did have an impact on my decision making. I thought, man, if he can do that, maybe someone like me can become mayor of Knox County, Tennessee.
I love it. And I think you're right. I think there are a lot of people who kind of had that same feeling. I mean, you look at the crop of, at least on the Republican side of things, people that are running for the midterms coming up this November, people who have gotten involved in even local politics, becoming the mayor of a town, becoming, a state senator, state rep. Those people probably would have never thought of getting involved in politics until Donald Trump ran and won in 2016. And I think you hit the nail on the head. People all across this country are looking for folks outside of the establishment. We've done the establishment for long enough. We see that in so many cases it has not worked, it has failed. But when you run as an outsider, they don't like that in the establishment. And man, do they not hold back, right? Letting you know. And I mean, they will come after you. Did you find it was hard to run as somebody that wasn't already in the political system?
Yes, it was. And people within the system did try to keep me out. And a lot of different things that I won't get into here did happen as far as trying to throw roadblocks in my way. And I can't imagine what it would have been like if I'd been running for a state or a federal office. It would have been much, much worse. But yes, the people that are in the establishment, it's kind of like a country club, and they don't want you joining them.
Right. That's exactly right. And I'll just say this, not that I will make an announcement on whether or not Donald Trump runs again in 2024, but there are obviously people who are doing any and everything they can out there to make sure he doesn't run, from that establishment perspective. I want to ask you, though, because we've talked to a lot of celebrities who are interested in politics, but very rarely do these people have the guts to actually get themselves on the ballot. Did you struggle with that? Was it something you thought, well, maybe I shouldn't even bother with this?
Not really, because it's something that I wanted to do. And I felt that personally, that was the next step in my life. Yeah, and you do have to consider those things, right? You have to look at your family. And I think I was more well equipped to do this than a lot of folks because I was already in the public eye. So I'm used to that kind of scrutiny. A little different, but nevertheless, used to being under the microscope. But, like for now, even right now, I've lost some friends or people, associates, because of my stance and because where I am politically. And that's sad, but that's also where the country is. Unfortunately, everything is so contentious now. And it used to be that even if you're on different sides of the aisle, you could still be friends and disagree about things. And it's not that way anymore. And I can certainly understand why a lot of folks, especially actors and athletes and other folks in the public eye, when you start saying what you think, and if it doesn't align with what a lot of other people think, you will get blackballed and you won't find work anymore. So it's the old thing of, if you're going to do it, when you land on the beach, you have to burn the boats because you're not going to get back in and go back to what you did before, probably.
Yeah, it is. It's so interesting, I think, to kind of take a step back and look at where we are and kind of, Glenn, how quickly we got here in America. To your point, that it used to be that, I mean, you kind of would know, I guess, where your friends or family members stood politically, but it never was this contentious. It never ended friendships. And believe me, I mean, if you want to talk about people who maybe have lost friends, talk to the Trump family. It's amazing, though, because I do have a handful of friends. We just completely stay away from politics, but I know that they didn't vote for my father-in-law. I know where they stand on a lot of things, but slowly and surely, a lot of those people are reaching out to me just kind of privately, low key, about some of the crazy things that are going out there in the country right now. And they're like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. Wait a minute, you're telling me that a biological man can compete against a woman in a sport and that's okay with people? Things like that people are just like, wait a minute, when did we get here? So I kind of have this feeling that as we head towards November and as we head towards 2024, maybe these people aren't talking to their other, Democrat friends about it. But I don't know. I feel like there's got to be a shift. The pendulum has to kind of start swinging back to make a little bit of sense.
I absolutely agree with you. And the left has gone so far left. They say that the right has gone right. I don't think the right's gone that far right. I think the right's kind of stayed where it was, and the left has just gone so far left and pulled the mainstream with them that everything is completely out of kilter. And it's interesting that you say that. When you say you look at polls, and polling has always been an inexact science, but now I think everything is really messed up because folks may not say that they're going to vote for so-and-so because of the reaction that even the pollster or the people around them give them. But nevertheless, when they get in the ballot box and it's an anonymous vote, that's what they do because that's actually what they agree with, even if they're afraid to say that in public.
Yeah, because there's so much pressure to conform to, what Hollywood or whoever it is, what you see out there on social media, that they try to convince you that everyone feels this way. And if you don't feel that way, then there's something wrong with you. It's no different than how in 2016, I knew that the exit polls would be wrong on election day when my father-in-law beat Hillary Clinton, because people were not talking about it. Because people would come up to me like in an airport and they'd be like, I'm voting for Donald Trump. And I'd be like, this is a little weird. Why are they whispering it? But it was because they didn't want anybody to get upset with them. They didn't want to get called any names. Whatever, they tried to say about people that would vote for Donald Trump, they just didn't want to have any of that bother. And so they got in the voting booth, and you're exactly right. They voted for Donald Trump, and they didn't tell anybody, even the exit pollster, about it, because they just didn't want the hassle. But look, we'll see. Obviously, I'll remind people again, this is a very important midterm election coming up. I think Republicans feel very strong going into November, but man, we can't leave anything to chance. We can't sit back and relax. I think we got to go full steam ahead. You're an athlete, you play every second of the game until the game is over. It doesn't matter how far ahead you are in that game because things can happen, right? You can't take your foot off the gas.
And it's the same at the state and local level. Yeah. Folks often discount the importance of state and local government. And we saw over the past couple of years, say with the Loudoun, Virginia Board of Education, how important a Board of Education is.
Right.
So yeah, I would say no matter where you are in the ballot, you have to work hard. And I would also appeal to my fellow Americans to pay attention to all the races, not just the federal races, but also your state and local races, because they're going to have a huge impact on your community.
Yeah, all the way down the ballot. We got to know who we're voting for in this country, because man, does it have an impact. Do you have any big goals in the next term if you win re-election?
Sure. When I win, actually, but yes, I do. Basically, this I think will really set the tone going forward. I think that we're in the middle of a historic realignment of political and economic power in this country. People and businesses are fleeing the blue states where they're not free, and they're coming to the red states where they are much freer. And we can take advantage of that here in Tennessee. And we, especially locally, we really need to look at the global economy and realign our workforce with the innovation that's going on and a high-tech workforce which is needed in the 21st century. So that's really what we're going to be looking at is how do we set the tone for the next 4 years, but also the next couple decades to take advantage of everything that's going on, both in our country and really around the world.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, Tennessee is really happening. Your state is, people I know who have moved to Tennessee, and there are a lot. I moved from New York to Florida. I know pretty much the same number of people that have moved from the Northeast to Tennessee. Let's hope, Glenn, that they didn't take their political views with them, and that when you moved to a certain state, you realize why you moved there. But I mean, people just rave about living in Tennessee and the times I've visited. Beautiful state, great people, a lot to offer. But I think you're right. You gotta, we all need to step up our game and make sure that we're preparing our communities for what's next, because we can't just stay stagnant. We have to continue to move forward, and I think that's really smart. What about further down the road? Are you happy representing your town, or could we possibly see a governor or Senator Jacobs down the line? What do we think?
Well, I'm term limited here as Knox County Mayor, so in 4 years from now, I'll be out of office and making a decision about what I want to do with my life. And I really don't know at this point. I'm just focused right now on doing the best job that I can as mayor, serving the people of Knox County. And then after that, I'll make a decision about what I want to do. And I'm actually a natural introvert, and it's strange that I keep on getting into these careers where I have to be out in the public, and and it's important, but nevertheless, sometimes it's also kind of uncomfortable for me, because I'm the guy that just wants to go home and read a book as opposed to always being out and doing things. But I also do think it's important that we have good people in office. And for me, when I look around and I see some of the things that happen, especially some of the things that happen in Washington, D.C., it's vital that folks serve. I mean, you look at the founding fathers, and they really actually sacrificed when they were in office. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, when they went home, their estates were in disarray, and they really spent the rest of their lives getting their financial matters back into order. But we need people in this country, good people who are willing to step up and do the right thing. So I don't know what that means for me. I'm just going to try to do the best I can over the next 4 years for the people of Knox County.
We'll certainly stay tuned. I think you're right. It actually should be the reverse of what it is, because people, it seems like, who get into politics for the right reason, again, I'll reference my father-in-law, man, are you punished? It is a financial, it's not financially positive for you to get into it. I think Donald Trump is probably the only president to leave the White House with less money than he went into the White House, but that's fine. But it should be the opposite, because we want good people getting into politics. But the only reason that the bad people get in is because they get kickbacks, and there's special interest groups and lobbyists, and it's a whole lot of greasing of the wheels. There's got to be a way that we reverse that, because it's not right. And I do think that we need to incentivize good people to get into politics, because we really need it. And you see what a positive difference it can make. Look at yourself, look at my father-in-law, look at so many of these up and coming folks that are running for office now that probably wouldn't have thought of it maybe even 6 years ago. So we've got to turn that around. I got to ask you about this, because I think this is amazing. You're still active in the WWE. You make cameo appearances every now and then. So what is it like going from Tennessee Mayor Glenn Jacobs to Kane, and then back to Mayor Glenn Jacobs? That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually don't do that much anymore. I don't want to get into a wrestling ring and actually get knocked down, because I don't know if I could get back up at this point. But yes, I still do things occasionally. For instance, recently had SummerSlam, which is WWE's second biggest event of the year, is at Nashville at Nissan Stadium, where the Titans play. And I announced the attendance for the evening. And it's awesome for me to just go out and still be a part of it. I mean, it's one of the greatest shows on the planet. And that's an experience that is unlike any other, when you get out there in front of thousands of people and just able to do something like that. And then I think the people here think it's really cool, actually, because I'll have folks come up to me and say, hey, I saw you doing this, or I saw you doing that, or I saw you on this WWE special. So it really is. I mean, it's rewarding for me. And then also, I think I'm able to do some pretty good things in the mayor's office because of that, because of the fame that has brought. I have a leg up sometimes when I need to get something done here, and I know who to talk to, or I know this person is a wrestling fan, so I can reach out to them. So I try to use that for the best benefit of people of Knox County through my role as mayor as well.
Well, yeah, not every day you could go see your mayor, and in a wrestling setup like that. And it's so cool that then you're able to use it, again, like you said, to benefit the people of Knox County. What do your kids think of this, though? You've been married since 1995. You have 2 kids. Do they see you as just dad? the mayor, the wrestler? How do they view all of this?
Yeah, they just see me as dad. My kids are grown. I actually have 2 grandkids, and it's the same
Whoa.
with them. Yeah, they just see me
Aw.
as they just see me as Poppy, and then that's it. Now, my grandson did go with me to SummerSlam, and he got a kick out of that. But the thing is, I'm not even his favorite wrestler. John Cena's his favorite wrestler. So, it's like, hey, Poppy, can you get me to beat the famous people here? I'm like, well, dude, I'm kind of one of them, but he doesn't think of it that way.
So funny. It's so true. Even like my kids, my son is just kind of getting old enough to understand who his grandfather is. But he still doesn't care. Like we were trying to take a picture this past weekend when we were with him, and my son is just acting so silly. I'm like, let's take a nice picture with Grandpa. He thinks it's funny to cover Grandpa's face. I'm like, right, dude, like really? One day you look back and be like, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But It's fun, and my father-in-law, of course, loves it. I think that it's so cool, all the things you've done. You're a WWE Hall of Famer, a champion several times over, husband, father, mayor of Knox County, Tennessee. But your biggest victory might just be being the strongest link in a special episode of The Weakest Link, defeating all the other wrestlers and winning money for one of my favorite charities, St. Jude Children's Cancer. Tell me about that. That sounds like so much fun.
It was a lot of fun. We had a special episode of The Weakest Link that pitted all of us against each other, and we all played for charity. So it was a lot of fun and for a good cause. And that's the best thing actually about my work in WWE in the end, is just the impact that we were able to have on folks. And I still hear poignant stories that people tell me about watching it with a relative, or just the joy that product brings people, and then the things that we're able to do as far as bringing awareness and sometimes to benefit great causes like St. Jude's. And again, not many people have the opportunity to do that, and that really is, I think, the greatest blessing that I received for my time in WWE was the ability to do good things for causes that I care about.
Yeah, and I honestly, St. Jude is one of the greatest places. My husband and I have done so much for them, gosh, over the past 15 years that we've been together. And if you ever have a chance, I want to encourage everybody out there to go to Memphis, Tennessee. That's where St. Jude is based. I'm sure you know that. And it'll change your life to go to that hospital and see the incredible work that they do. They take the sickest kids from across the world. They never turn anyone away. They're amazing. So absolutely love that you played for them. All right, final question.
Sorry, Lara, what they do there too, here in Knoxville, of course, we have a standalone pediatric hospital, East Tennessee Children's Hospital. But what St. Jude's does is they share the research that they've done with all these other children's hospitals around the world. So St. Jude's is not only just a children's hospital, it also helps all of the other children's hospitals literally everywhere around the world. It's a great organization.
That's right. Yeah, no, they're great. They do research that no one else wants to do because there's no money to research for a cancer sometimes that only a handful of kids across the world get. But St. Jude will actually do that research, and then you're right, they share it with everyone so that everyone benefits across the world. It's awesome. So I have to ask you, what do you think, Glenn, is the best part of America, and what do you think is the greatest threat to the future of our country?
The best part of America is our freedom and our liberty, and that's what makes us unique. The fact that here in our country, it's all based around the individual and the dignity and importance of the individual. Thomas Jefferson said that governments are instituted to protect the natural rights of human beings, and that's something that I believe in and I try to do every day. So it's our freedom and liberty, and that's what sets us apart from everyone else all around the world. I think the biggest threat, at this point, is that there's a lot of them actually, but the cultural Marxism is a big threat. The left, the far left, what they really want to do is they just want to, eliminate all freedom and just say everybody's the same, not necessarily equal, but just the same. And they think that that's going to result in a classless society. Well, it's not. There's going to be two classes. They're going to be the ruled and the rulers. And the rulers aren't going to be a whole many people, not a whole lot of folks. So that's ultimately, when you strip away everything, that's what all the things we see socially, that's what they're all about. And then, of course, the massive spending, inflation, and the national debt, those are huge issues, and they're going to have a tremendous impact on our country going forward and our standard of living.
Yep, it's so true. Scary stuff. But that's why we're so happy that we have people like you out there fighting the good fight, at least for the people of Tennessee right now. Stay tuned. We never know what could happen. So we'll see, and we won't hold you to anything. So Mayor Glenn Jacobs, thank you for joining us on The Right View. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lara. I appreciate you.
All right. To everybody at home, as always, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time, right back here, same place.